In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make one of these wooden B-frames from scratch with just simple lumber, 1x4 by whatever long you want it, and just regular 2x4 that we're going to be ripping down to size. First thing I did is I put in my 18 7/8 inch keeper. We want all of our boards cut at a length of 18 7/8 inches to begin with. We're just going to use a standard 1x4, 1 inch thick. Well, it's actually 3/4, but they call it a 1x4. So 1x4, and then we're just going to slide that up against the keeper like so. So here we have our 1x4 by 18 7/8 inches long. Now we've got it here at the table saw. We're gonna rip it into 3 pieces that are 1 inch wide. Now, using a frame jig that I've made here, we slide that all the way in, and we're going to cut a 1 inch long by 3/8 inch deep cut in each end of the board. I'm going to install the clamp to keep the frame rail from moving. And now, using the router, we're just going to go ahead and cut this in. Pull it out, and we're going to do the other side. And now we have that 3/8 deep by 1 inch wide cut on each end. When you're done, your frame, the top of your frame should look like this. Now, using just a regular plain 2x4, fairly straight if possible, we're just going to cut a piece that's 3/8 of an inch wide. We'll go ahead and cut 2 of them. That's 2 pieces, 3/8 of an inch wide. We will now rip one of these boards down to 1 3/8 inches wide. Now, the board that we ripped to 1 3/8 inches wide, we're going to cut it into 2 pieces that are 5 7/8 inches long. I also have my 5 7/8 inch keeper installed. Look like that. The other board that was left over, that's still the original width, we're going to cut it down to 17 inches long. got my 17-inch keeper installed. So there's our 17 inches. With our 17-inch long board, we need to rip it down to 1 inch. Now on our 1 inch thick by 1 inch wide board with the ends that we routed in the 1 inch cut on, we want to adjust our saw so that the blade is about halfway in between the lumber. So you want to, and we want to adjust the blade setting so that it's as close. You can just eyeball this, folks. It don't need to be perfect. Just as close to as center of this board as possible. And we're going to just cut a groove in there for that frame to sit in. Is we just cut a groove in there about half the thickness from here to here, and that frame is just gonna kind of ride in that groove there. Now we're going to do the exact same thing with this board. We're going to leave it set with the saw blade riding down the middle, but we need to adjust our height so that we don't slice through the board. Just deep enough so that frame can ride down there in that groove. You don't want it too deep or you'll split your wood, but about halfway, not quite, but about halfway should be deep enough. And all that's going to do is allow that foundation to ride down in that groove. Now we have our two smaller pieces that we cut earlier, and we need to make them look like this. So what we're going to do that is I build a jig, and it's gonna do the job for us. And once again, this stuff is easy as well. And there's our two pieces for the sides of our frame. Before I go any further, if anyone would like to know how to build this jig, I'll just give you a few dimensions real quick. This board that runs right along here is right at about 3/8 of an inch thick. Doesn't matter how tall it is, we're just using it as a guide. This little board right here is 1/4 of an inch thick. And it doesn't matter how long it is, just as long as it doesn't go into the guide, and it cannot go past here. It's only 2.5 inches long, and I've just got it nailed in there. And all that does is, as you're riding this through here, it's a guide so that you don't start, so you get an even cut so that that board can slide freely along that guide. If you don't have that guide, you're going to be sliding and tilting in like that. You're not going to get an accurate cut at all. So you've got to have that little guide. And from the center of the shaft on the router to this board is 3.5 inches. Now, from the edge of this board, this is the same router that we use to cut in our frame rests. I haven't adjusted the setting, I haven't adjusted the depth. All I've adjusted is putting this board on. You're going to use the same board, so all the amount of cut that you're going to be making is roughly 1/4 inch. It's only roughly 1/4 inch deep here. I can't really see that well here, but you're about 1/4 inch deep on both sides, giving us right at about a 1 inch wide shaft. So just for you folks that wanted to know, in case you wanted to start building your own frames, save a little bit of money, this jig, very easy to make. I also have another one to do deep supers when we get into doing deeps, and the only thing that changes is the length of this little guide board in this part right here. We just need a little bit deeper, and then you'll wind up with a longer frame edge right there, as just like so there. Same thing. This is a piece of treated lumber I was using when I was getting all this set it up. I don't want to use treated lumber in my hives. I want to try to keep it as natural as possible. That's just a test piece. So but anyway, as far as that goes, it makes a nice little edge. It's, as you can see, it don't get any easier than this. We'll continue here with assembling our frame.